The sitting room was modest in size, wrapped entirely in dark wallpaper and faintly perfumed. A vivid fire crackled in the wide hearth, and a single lamp, perched on the corner of the mantel beneath a shade of antique lace, cast a gentle glow over the faces of two companions. She, the lady of the house, was a silver-haired elder, one of those enchanting old women whose faces bear no trace of wrinkles, with skin as delicate as parchment and infused with fragrant essences. Years of ritual ablutions had steeped those subtle aromas deep into her flesh, so that kissing her hand was like opening a box of Florentine iris powder. He, a lifelong bachelor and a faithful weekly visitor, was a kindred spirit on the journey of life, but nothing more. For a moment, they sat in silence, both gazing into the flames, lost in reverie, surrendering to that rare pause of friendly quietude where words are unnecessary and presence alone brings comfort. Suddenly, a massive log, a whole stump bristling with fiery roots, collapsed. It leapt past the grate, landed on the carpet, and rolled across the floor, scattering sparks like stars. The old woman sprang up with a startled cry, as if to flee, but her companion, with a swift kick of his boot, sent the charred timber back into the fireplace and stamped out the glowing embers. When the commotion subsided and the room filled with the pungent scent of smoke, the man resumed his seat across from his friend and looked at her with a smile. "That's why I never married," he said, nodding toward the reclaimed log. She turned to him with a curious gaze, the kind older women often wear when they long to understand everything, a look tinged with thoughtful, layered, and sometimes mischievous inquiry. "How so?" she asked. He replied, "Ah, it's a whole tale, rather bitter and unpleasant. My old friends were often puzzled by the sudden chill that came between Julian, once my closest companion, and me. They couldn't fathom how two inseparable comrades could become near strangers overnight. Well, here lies the secret of our estrangement. In those days, Julian and I lived together. We were never apart, bound by a friendship so strong it seemed unbreakable. One evening, he came home and announced he was getting married. It struck me like a blow to the heart, like theft or betrayal. When a friend marries, the friendship ends forever. A woman's jealous love, suspicious, restless, and physical, cannot abide the candid, spirited bond that exists between two men, a bond of trust and intellect and heart. You see, madam, no matter how deep the love between a man and a woman, they remain strangers in mind and soul. They are adversaries by nature of different breeds. There must always be a tamer and the tamed, a master and a servant, and the roles shift, but equality never truly exists. They may clasp hands trembling with passion, but they will never share that broad, firm, honest handshake that lays bare the heart in a surge of sincere, brave affection. Wise men, instead of marrying and raising children who will one day leave them, would do better to find a loyal friend and grow old together in the shared realm of intellectual kinship that only two men can know. So, Julian married. His wife was a charming little blonde with curls, lively and plump, seemingly devoted to him. At first, I visited them rarely, afraid to intrude on their tenderness, feeling like an outsider. But they kept inviting me, persistently, and appeared to genuinely enjoy my company. Gradually, I succumbed to the quiet allure of their domestic harmony. I dined with them often, and many nights, returning to my empty home, I found myself dreaming of following Julian's path, of finding a wife, because my solitude now felt unbearably bleak. They seemed inseparable, utterly in love. One evening, Julian wrote to invite me for dinner. I accepted. "My dear fellow," Julian said, "I must step out on business right after dinner. I won't be back before 11, but I'll be home precisely at 11. I'm counting on you to keep Bertha company." The young woman smiled. "It was my idea to send for you," she said. I took her hand. "You're too kind." And I felt her fingers linger in mine with a warm, friendly pressure. I didn't think much of it. We sat down to eat, and at exactly 8 o'clock, Julian left us. The moment he walked out, an odd tension settled between Bertha and me. We had never been alone together before, and despite the growing familiarity between us, this solitude was something entirely new. I began speaking of trivial things, those empty little topics people use to fill awkward silences. She didn't respond. She sat across from me, at the opposite corner of the fireplace, her head bowed, her gaze unfocused, one leg stretched toward the flames, lost in thought. When the small talk ran dry, I fell silent. It's strange how difficult it can be to find something to say. And then I felt it again. That intangible, elusive shift in the air, a mysterious current that warns us of hidden intentions, whether kind or cruel, harbored by those around us. The silence dragged on, heavy and uncertain. Then Bertha spoke. "Add a log to the fire, my friend. It's dying." I opened the wood drawer, just like the one you have, and pulled out the thickest log I could find, setting it upright atop the nearly spent embers. The quiet resumed. Within minutes, the log caught flame so fiercely that the heat began to sting our faces. Bertha looked at me, and something in her eyes struck me as different. "It's too hot here now," she said. "Let's move to the sofa." And so we did. Suddenly, she turned to me, her gaze direct and unwavering. "What would you do," she asked, "if a woman told you she loved you?" Taken aback, I replied, "Well, that would depend entirely on the woman." She laughed, a dry, nervous, brittle laugh, the kind that sounds like it might shatter glass, and added, "Men are never brave, nor clever." After a pause, she asked again, "Have you ever been in love, Monsieur Paul?" I admitted that I had. "Tell me about it," she said. I shared some story, any story. She listened intently, occasionally showing disdain or disapproval, and then suddenly declared, "No, you understand nothing about love. Real love, in my view, must turn the heart upside down, twist the nerves until they scream, empty the mind. It must be, how shall I say, dangerous, even dreadful, nearly criminal, almost sacrilegious. It must feel like betrayal. I mean, it must trample sacred boundaries, defy laws, break bonds of kinship. If love is calm, safe, lawful, how can it be true love?" I didn't know what to say. Inwardly, I mused, "Ah, the female soul, here it is in full." As she spoke, she adopted the air of a coy innocent, reclining on the cushions, stretching out, resting her head on my shoulder. Her dress shifted slightly, revealing a flash of red silk stocking that glimmered now and then in the firelight. After a moment, she asked, "Do I frighten you?" I protested. She leaned fully against me and, without meeting my eyes, said, "And if I told you I loved you, what then?" Before I could answer, her arms encircled my neck, pulled me close, and her lips met mine. Ah, my dear, I assure you, there was no joy in that moment. To betray Julian? To become the lover of this spoiled, cunning, and undoubtedly passionate woman, whose husband no longer satisfied her. To deceive endlessly, To play at love for the thrill of forbidden fruit, for the reckless dance with danger, for the desecration of friendship? No, that was not for me. But what was I to do? Play the role of Joseph? A foolish and nearly impossible part, especially when the woman in question was ablaze with treachery, trembling with desire, and wild with abandon. Let the one who has never felt the full force of a woman's kiss, when she is ready to surrender, cast the first stone at me. Just one more moment. You understand, don't you? Just one more moment, and I would have, or rather, she would have. Forgive me, it would have happened, or rather, it was bound to happen, when suddenly a violent crash jolted us to our feet. A flaming log, yes, madam, a log, had burst from the fireplace, knocking over the shovel and the grate, rolling like a fiery whirlwind across the rug, igniting it, and coming to rest beneath an armchair that was seconds away from catching fire. I leapt forward like a madman, and while I wrestled the blazing timber back into the hearth, the door flew open. Julian entered, beaming. "I'm free," he exclaimed. "The meeting ended 2 hours early." Yes, my friend, had it not been for that infernal log, I would have been caught red-handed. You can imagine the consequences. Naturally, I took precautions to ensure I'd never again find myself in such a compromising position. Never, ever again. Soon after, I noticed Julian growing distant. His wife, it seemed, had begun to undermine our friendship. Little by little, he withdrew, and eventually, we stopped seeing each other altogether. I never married, and now I trust you understand why. Ladies and gentlemen, stay connected. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new tale. Share your thoughts and impressions in the comments below. I truly enjoy hearing from you.